afternoon.
Let everybody join and then we'll get started. All right, are we leveling out?
Yeah, looks like it. We're at a 10-point differential for a little while now.
All right, I'll start rebroadcasting at some point on Twitter and Twitch or something. Got to get more people on the website now, so it's harder to get everyone. Yeah. Something to
Yeah,
think
I hear
about.
you about
Anyway,
that.
thanks for coming. This is the weekly Midjourney office hours. We do them every week at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Basically, what we do is we talk about what we're working on and what we're thinking about, and then we go to questions. So let's get started. We're trying to release some new features on the website relatively soon. We're going to try to make we'll try to combine the reframe and the repaint into kind of like a more general editor interface. And then we'll probably start internally testing, like, modifying non-Midjourney images too, and eventually have that as like maybe like a higher tier thing. But the short term, it's mainly just about, having this better interface that combines things with regular Midjourney images. But it's like more scalable. Then we're going to do some tools, whether it's like some new describe tools or explore tools on like Stylix, sort of like describe and Style Explorer like tools on the website, kind of make those flows a little better. We're gonna do room syncing between some of the Discord and the and the web rooms. And then we're gonna be working more on our general onboarding, more of a general onboarding thing on the website, and then we'll try to open it up to more people. So we'll probably open it up to more regular Midjourney users, like everybody who's made at least 10 images or something. We should probably do that because, yeah, if you're on the Discord, you should be able to use the website too. But the main thing we're being cautious about is like letting people join the website with no Discord thing, because it means that they can't like come and ask for help in the same way anymore. They don't quite have the same support of the community, but maybe hopefully more so soon when we have the rooms syncing. And what else? We're working on like a 6.2 release. Probably gonna have a bunch of things in it, like a better, like a new inpainting and zoom out thing, and then more coherence and sort of like more stuff that 6.1 did, but like more hardcore, more better text. We're gonna try to have like a more balanced default aesthetic. We're gonna have probably a new personalization system that I'm not gonna say, yeah, like that's more powerful, that lets you have multiple profiles. And then we're thinking of like maybe a depth control net too. Um, yeah, I forgot if there was any other things in there, but basically a bunch of more features. And so that'll probably be the last 6.0 release. And then we'll probably focus 100% on 7.0. And then we'll be focusing on 7.0 and video and 3D, which will each take a bit, but I'm moving along. And yeah, I think the 6.2 will be, I'm hoping it's pretty good because we weren't able to like fully do the 6.1 stuff that we wanted to do. So that made it harder to, like in some ways 6.1 is like a half release because we didn't have enough data. But we're not going to do more. Yeah, well, yeah. So we'll retune things and like I think it'll be a good release at the end of the month. And then it'll be on the 7.0. There's a few different 7.0s under consideration in terms of like how much faster it's going to be or how the aesthetics work. But I think no matter what, 7.0 will be much, much better at prompt and language understanding. So that's for sure. Hopefully it's also a lot faster and a lot more aesthetic. But I don't think we have like we haven't like we don't yeah, we've only trained it. We haven't trained it enough to have like a fine sense of that. But we're getting closer. We are thinking about doing some like sketch interfaces too, but I think we're a little bit behind because we don't quite, the data is a bit messy and we need some more data people right now. But the sketch thing is pretty behind. But we'll play with it. Probably over the next few months. There's definitely going to have a lot more data in 7.0, so I'm not worried about it. Like, it should have a lot more knowledge in general. So, yeah, I think 6.2 will be really good, but won't have more knowledge. It'll be better, like smarter and better. And then 7.0 will just be a lot more different. Yeah, I think that's mainly it. We're going to try to do a psychometric survey also in the next week or two, so we can try to understand the connections between like psychology and aesthetics. I think that'll be really fun. And that'll be sort of like a test version for some of our new, like more intense psychology stuff, which will be really cool. Which will take a little longer, but you'll kind of get a sense of how it's fun. And nothing coming from the Niji anytime soon. The Niji team is focusing more on video right now. They don't feel like that a 6.1 or 6.2 Niji would be that important versus like a video anime thing. So they're more focused on video right now. We think that likely what will happen is for V7, we'll kind of combine the Niji and the regular model. So there won't necessarily be a separate model anymore. Yeah, and so video is more of a thing for them to focus on. Yeah, there'll be a lot of good stuff out this year. Cool. So I think that's the main updates. There's obviously a lot of secret projects too, but we can't talk about the secret stuff because they're secret. But there's more stuff. And if you guys want, we can do a lightning round now. So ask your questions in the VC text channel and we'll go through things. I don't think it makes sense for us to do an open source model. Yeah, I'm not really sure. There's a lot of people who are like, oh my God, I can save so much money by not paying for Midjourney if I buy a $2,000 GPU. I think that's kind of insane because, yeah, like when you make a bunch of images, you're actually using like 64 GPUs at once, like on Midjourney, and you just can't do that. Like even if you have your own GPU. So first off, you have more functionality by using the cloud, and then second off, like you're not actually saving money. Like if you spent $2,000 on Midjourney, you would get a lot more functionality on it. So I think that like the open source thing is not really about saving money. I'm not really sure what it's about. I think it's about like sticking it to the man or something. I, I guess like it can be good for academic research, but I think the other open source models are fine for academic research already. People don't need anything for us from it. So I think it's unfortunately a lot of the open source stuff is a little, I think, incoherent right now. Um, yeah. Um, yeah. CREF, no CREF things coming until probably V7. I don't think the psychological profile will be used by police or military. I'm not working on superhuman soldiers. Yeah, there's like these stable diffusion people who made a new company and their goal is to just redo stable diffusion without the CEO. I think they're probably going to learn that there's not really a good business there, so probably going to like burn through VC money and then collapse. So it's kind of a shame, but I feel a little bad for some of that just because like yeah, some people will put like yeah. It's amazing how much effort people will put into something to be like the second or the third best. It's like, but yeah, um, I think it's just kind of pointless, and I wish they would find a better jobs way to actually help the world more. Um, yeah. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I talk to a lot of people about working for us, but then usually what they say is they're like very often I talk to people who start other companies, like basically a lot of people who before they I would say like a lot of the other image generation companies, like before they start their company, I talk to them and I'm like, hey, can we work together? And usually they're like, I want multi-generational wealth, like give me tons of money. And I'm like, you know, um, yeah, I don't know. One guy was like, yeah, I might join your company if you give me $30 million. I'm like, bro, like, do you give a shit about any of this? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And it was like, so that guy like started a company and nobody uses their stuff now. Um, so like there's a lot of weird attitudes in the AI space sometimes. And so it can be kind of like ego or money driven. And it's super fucked up. But I just want to say, yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel pretty mixed about a lot of the I feel pretty mixed about a lot of the other companies in the space. Like it doesn't feel like there's any vision. It's just like about wanting to have their own company or trying to make more money. Um, yeah. Um, but I try not to, yeah, we're not really very competitive. We just sort of have stuff we want to do. And so I feel pretty good about, you know, we have a lot of cool things that we're working on. I think, kind of the goal again is to go more towards like real-time open world simulations, which is pretty hard, pretty big. Um, Gonna take a few years. And there's stuff beyond that too that I think are really exciting and compelling. So I really hope that at some point there's like another company out there that has ideas that we can learn from. But I feel like in general, it's not, it's mostly just people, you know, there's not much out there. So yeah, I don't know. I feel a little bad about it. And it's hard on them too. So I'll try not to like say too much shit because like every time they make something, everyone's like, "Is it as good as Midjourney? Are you as good as Midjourney?" And then it's always like, "No, no, no." And then they get angry at us, and eventually we become the evil people because like everybody's always comparing their hard work to us and telling them they're not good enough. So I do feel a lot of empathy for those kinds of people. It happened a lot at like Leap Motion, my previous company. Like there are a lot of companies that built hand tracking, but nobody remembers any of their names. Um, and it was always eventually what kind of happens is all the people who tried to compete with us like end up at the big tech companies, and like those teams hate us because we like destroyed their companies. And like I'm not trying to destroy anyone's company. I'm just trying to make good stuff. So you know, there's a lot of people who say that stuff to us. Like people literally like, David, we're gonna destroy you, but it's not personal. Like, we're just competitive. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm just not really trying to be competitive. I'm trying to make good stuff, and I have like a lot of, I can like feel how great things can be, and I just want to focus on that. And then a lot of this other stuff, like this sort of, a lot of the startup ecosystem is kind of a distraction because, at some point they're just, they're like just trying to sell, somebody's just trying to sell a company to Adobe or something to make money instead of trying to make like a lasting thing that will like be like benefit people. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to rant too much about that, but I feel kind of bad about it. No, I think open source is good. Open source is good, but it's sort of like open source for academic research at some point more than it is about like open source for quality or for cost savings. And in theory, you can build new types of innovative businesses around open source, but I think the AI space just hasn't had that very much yet. I think the AI space has been broadly like extremely uncreative, which is unfortunate. But I think actually we're going to get some really good AI companies in the next 2 or 3 years. I think what's going to happen is that basically a lot of the 18-year-olds who grew up with ChatGPT, who kind of have a feeling about why it sucks, will go to start companies when they're like 22, 23. And then those will be the first, I think, good AI companies that have like product sense. So I think a problem is a lot of the AI companies are kind of almost being like started by crypto people or people who did B2B SaaS or something, and they don't really know how to figure out. Um, yeah. And so I think the younger generation is going to build some really great AI companies, and they'll probably build them off open source. So um, I just think that I think there's a little bit more opportunity to build great products around the language models than around the image models. I think with the image models, I'm seeing like way less creativity around what people do with them. Um, like people, I think like obviously people here are creative with image models, but I mean, like I don't see people doing a lot of really creative stuff with the open source ones. Um, there are some really cool things like ControlNet. Like ControlNet is really cool, but ControlNet wasn't really like a triumph of the open source community. It was basically like one guy who was a really good researcher who had been working on stuff for like 3 or 4 years, and then he shoved it into Stable Diffusion. So in a lot of ways, like probably the coolest thing to come out of Stable Diffusion, which was like ControlNet, was really mostly from like one unrelated researcher. But I don't know. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the question is like, what are you trying to do for the world, right? And so, um, yeah, the guy who made ControlNet is pretty cool. I mean, obviously, like I think he's probably one of the better examples of one of the open source things because he like has a lot of ideas about things. And so I think when somebody has ideas and uses the open source to explore the new ideas, it's really good. But I think when the open source is mostly just used for like knockoff companies it's like not as cool because they're not really adding any value, you know? But yeah, it's kind of a weird space. I would very much like to, yeah. I guess I'm just like disappointed sometimes in a lot of the startup and company ecosystems, and that like it's just not as innovative as I'd like it to be. But I think sometimes the goal of open source is not to, yeah, I don't know. Like it really depends. Like I think like open source databases are different than open source AI. Hopefully we'll have some really good competition with good ideas and we can then steal those ideas. It would be nice to have competitors who we can get ideas from. Usually it feels like it's only one way, but I think the new runway looks pretty good in terms of them using like Midjourney images in the beginning and the end and like keyframing between things. So it's probably a good idea. Um, yeah. Anyway, any other questions? Um, will 3D data be needed to solve 3D? We're trying to take some 3D data. Yeah, I don't know if Runway is better than Luma or vice versa right now. It sounds like the new Runway is better than the latest Luma, but I don't know. Okay, maybe Luma's better. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not a huge Apple guy, but it does feel like that we're basically being the Apple where we kind of care about the craftsmanship and are not as open sourcey. But yeah, I feel mixed about that sometimes because, I do like Android and Windows more than Apple stuff, but I don't know. Yeah, I'd use more. I think, yeah, there'll be eventually some 3D printing thing that'll be cool. Um, yeah. I think with the psychometric survey, we're really curious, like, how much of our aesthetics are defined by our demographics and our psychology. And that kind of, I think the demographics and psychology are like two cool things that it's not everything, but we'll be able to put the two things together and be like, what percentage of this is explained, which will be really interesting. The psychology stuff is also going to be like a new product at some point. Like we're going to make some new products that are more, uh, that are like unrelated to the image stuff. I think the psychology stuff is kind of goes to this like reflection, imagination, coordination things. Yeah, we're gonna release some results from the aesthetic stuff so you can play around with the demographics and sort of see what like how's the aesthetics of like Japanese women different from German men. Um, yeah. Yeah, hopefully I don't upset people too much about the open source stuff. There's open source is really about like multiple things. Like there's this sort of like there's a philosophy of open source. Like, is open source good or bad? I think open source is good. I think we should have way more open source in the world. Like we should probably tax all closed source companies and then use that to fund open source like software. Like there should be, and then like the government should be forced to only use open source software. So I think that there's a lot of elements of open source which are important and essential. I think that um, ideally, like a lot of software would be like could it would have to be open sourced after like 10 or 20 years. It's, like there'd be something like that, or be like legally required. Um, yeah, I think that sometimes open source though is like not about, it can kind of become about other weird things, like about um, not paying people. So like some people might be like, oh, we're sticking it to Midjourney by using open source. But then what they're really doing is they're using open source from venture-backed companies that are trying to make like billions of dollars to, then stick it to us, which, we have no investors. So like people can be pretty confused at times, like who the big guy, who like who has what motivations. So I think that like some of the open source stuff is maybe sometimes weaponized in a way. Um, yeah, like Llama 3 is really good, but I mean, part of the reason to do Llama 3 is probably to like devalue all the other AI companies. So, I'm definitely a fan of Llama 3, but you can definitely see like a sort of a, is it capitalist? Is it not capitalist? Well, I mean, releasing Llama 3 devalues all the AI companies, but and then sort of helps solidify the social mode of Facebook. So, like tactically, it's not totally clear if like open sourcing Llama is kind of weirdly anti-competitive or weirdly altruistic. I think the reality is that it's a little bit of both, you know? And so in theory, like everybody benefits from venture capitalists pumping money into like knockoff Midjourney companies, um, even if it makes us like do more stuff. But also sometimes not. Like sometimes it would be better if we put our money into like further out R&D. But hard to say, at that point. That's kind of like the whole, is it good to knock off things or not kind of questions. So like people often attack China for this. They're like, China hurts America by, making things that are similar to American companies. And I think some of that's true and some of it's not true. So like it's definitely good that we have like cheaper good stuff. But then at the same time, like some of the global competition with American companies has destroyed some of the like R&D backbone for the world. So like a lot of the companies that were building out better solar panel technology were destroyed by solar subsidies in China. And so you could say that it's like China will subsidize solar panels to destroy American companies. Like there's definitely some of that happening with like venture capital, I think, like kind of or even or big tech companies like subsidizing AI to try to like do things, but I don't know. I was like in theory, like yeah, in theory, competition is good, but then sometimes competition is distracting. So yeah, hard to say. I think it's like both good and bad simultaneously. Though like it all depends on your values. So like my values are usually about like trying to do new things. So when I see the open source community like less focused on new things, it makes me feel less makes me feel a little depressed sometimes because I see smart people that could push the boundaries a bit more rather than trying to like stick it to the man. But I guess there is like a hacker ethos and I respect the hacker ethos. But yeah, I know I'm gonna make some people mad by not like saying that open source is the most important thing in the world. But yeah, I think that Midjourney is doing a lot of really groundbreaking things. I think if we weren't doing anything groundbreaking, our stuff would look as shitty as everybody else's. But the fact that our stuff looks good is because we are doing groundbreaking things. So And I think our stuff is probably more groundbreaking than it seems, but then you see a lot of people training off of Midjourney images. And so when people train their stuff off Midjourney images, like they're not really understanding how we're making our stuff look good, but they'll, try to be making their stuff look better. So it's fine if people can train on Midjourney images, but like it's fine. I'm not like objecting to it principally, but what I mean is it might like create some confusion about like where the innovation is coming from because we're not really just we're not like just training on better images. Like if we were just training on better data, then maybe that would seem like it would be okay to train on like training on Midjourney images was sort of like equal innovation, but I think it's not really what we do. Um, yeah. So I know that like a lot of other people will get mad at us because we kind of like take attention away from the space and everybody compares us to them and they have to live with that every day and I feel bad for that, but sorry. I hope they find like satisfaction somewhere. Um, yeah, I think we want to improve the character stuff a lot, but I think we don't quite. Yeah, we want to improve characters a lot. We're probably gonna wait for V7. Yeah, we're gonna move a lot of stuff for link for like, yeah, for V7. Unfortunately, we will probably offer Midjourney on more platforms. So just yeah, we'll probably be able to do something that looks more like zooming with the editor because you can crop and then you can do upscale, I think. We will do something that's like more of like image and video and 3D. Hopefully we don't have to do that much audio, but we're always going to try to work with other people before we do stuff ourselves. We will do some better persistent character stuff in V7. We'll have some way of organizing it, but I don't think we figured that out yet. Um, I think we will have like a cheaper tier at some point, but it'll probably be either like you via data labeling, like you have to data label to make images, or you have to um, do something else. Um, what else is there? Ah. Um, yeah, we're not sure when we're gonna make it so anyone can register outside of Discord, but probably soon. Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of dislike the website UI too sometimes. We're definitely gonna try to improve things. What has Twitter become? I don't know. No, we're not really gonna talk about why our stuff looks better than everybody else, just because everybody spends all their time trying to, like, it doesn't really benefit us to do that, unfortunately. It could be kind of cool too, but like if people weren't so like if people weren't so focused on trying to destroy us out of like some competitive ego-driven madness, the I would love to be like super open about it, how we do everything. But I think at the end of the day, like one of our goals is like we're not really trying to make money. We actually are going to try to use the money that we have to basically do more really crazy things. And so to me, like it'd be nice to be open, but I'm willing to be a little closed if I can use that for money to like maybe do something in medicine or do something crazy somewhere else that like helps save lives or improves lives in general. Um, no, I think in general competition is good. I think yeah, in general competition is good. I'm not so sure competition is good for David. Like maybe just give David a monopoly, but but you know, um, hands should be better in 6.2. I think we will try to make Midjourney better on iPads and on mobile. The 3D Midjourney will be built on top of image Midjourney. Yeah, I guess we should drop the politics down in the chat. That's one reason why I probably shouldn't have talked about open source, because at some point open source becomes more of like a political thing, rather than like you can't like completely talk about how a lot of open source is really more about marketing um, than about other things. But yeah, like it's kind of crazy how much of open source is about like big companies funneling money to like displace each other tactically. But it is good. Like I think overall it's good. It's such a messed up world, like way that it all happens. Like I wish it was clean. Like I wish the government just ran totally on open source and there was a tax on closed source companies and that we like funded open source as like, general infrastructure and things like that. Um, it gets weird when like the big tech companies are funding all the open source or the venture capitalists. Because it's like, where's the motivation really? Um, yeah. 6.2 should hopefully be by the end of the month with a bunch of new features. The text should be better, coherence should be better, Handsley better. We'll add more control net over time. It's not super easy to add into the current systems, but I think the goal with V7 is that it'll be easier to add more control-like things. I'm not convinced that like all the control nets are really adding value sometimes, or people are just sort of, um, or people are just sort of like, I'll call it like feature chasing. Like it's always cool to have the newest feature, but then if almost nobody uses it, then why make it? But it's hard to say. I mean, like arguably the way that creative stuff works is that a lot of creative things are just like you want lots of extremely niche features. So maybe that's something that we're going to be bad at, but it's hard to say. Yeah. I think part of the challenge is really that we have ideas for how a lot of this stuff should be a lot better, but it takes a while. And so ideally we would have time to just sort of build the real things instead of like, you know, copying half-assed features. But um, yeah, I understand how people are impatient because you want to kind of use it for work now. But I think it's challenging because like we're not really trying to specifically make it for work. We're trying to be for fun, but people are always trying to use it for work. So then there's like, a bit of a conflict between what we are building it for and what people want to use it for sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. Text will be improved a lot for 6.2 and 7.0. I think it's possible we'll have to like shorten the office hours sometimes because it feels like what happens after 30 minutes is people just stop asking the same questions over and over again. So maybe it's like more effective for me to just um, do a different format sometimes, but I'm not sure. Um, like it does feel like I get into like a loop, but maybe there's like some better way of writing up writing up like a summary in the beginning. I'm not sure. There's definitely like something we could do to evolve the thing. Yeah, I don't think this. Yeah, it might seem like the $60 a month plans are subsidizing the $10 people, but actually it's the $10 a month people subsidizing the $60 plans, which is kind of funny. Or actually, I think the $30 plan is the best deal, so it's mostly like the $10 subsidizing the 30s. There aren't that many 60s by comparison. Yeah, the 30 is really is really like is really a very, very good deal. Like 30 is like I think the $30 plan is probably like the best deal in the entire AI field because like a lot of people actually use thousands of dollars a month in compute with the $30 plan. And we just like eat the loss on them, which is pretty painful. But there's enough like 60 and $10 people that the $30 people like don't put us out of business. So it's kind of like a very carefully balanced thing. Um, yeah, it's okay. I think we are managing the business side, so I think there's some risks about like in general, the business side is very healthy. I think there's some risk a little bit around like spending a lot of money on like the video models, but I think we can take some risk there and spend some money on video models. Um, but I mean, also the V7 and the V8 models, each one's keep getting more expensive, so there's definitely like some concern about that stuff, but we do have plenty of money for it. It's just at what point, I don't know. I think I'm probably over conservative with money. Just because like my previous company, like sometimes didn't have enough money. So usually whenever you run a company that doesn't have enough money, you end up becoming kind of like permanently conservative with money. Um, we're definitely gonna try changing the plans a little bit, and we're gonna definitely try like adjusting the pricing and figure out the best. Like we're definitely gonna adjust the plan this year. Yeah, I mean, if we do video, it should be the best. I don't know if it'll have all the features, but you know, one would hope that if we do video, it's gonna be good. I think video and 3D are gonna be different
Yeah.
because we'll let you like move a camera around, you know, in real time. So that's kind of a new thing. Um, I don't think Relax was particularly slow over the weekend. I think we slowed down Relax a little bit to try to target some of the people who are maybe like abusing it, but I don't think it should be affecting most people. I think we have some people, particularly in Asia, who go nuts on Relax mode, and so we're trying to, you know, maybe figure out how to rebalance the Relax. Like the Relax mode math is meant there so that we can, like, if everybody uses Relax mode equally, then it's easy. But if we have like some people in Asia who use it 10x more, then it gets to the point where we need to maybe like change the rules a little bit. So I think we're gonna announce a lot of the secret projects this year, hopefully by the end of the year. I think we might, there's like, I'm trying to debate like the right way to announce a secret project. So we might just say like, we have a division working on cheesecakes, but then we don't like show the cheesecake, you know? Yeah, there should be better anatomy and stuff in 6.2. I mean, there's a small chance that like, depending on how 6.2 looks, we could even do a quick 6.3, just targeting specific things like swords and whatever. But I don't think we've decided on that yet. We don't really use code names. We just kind of, we're not that secretive, so we don't really, we just kind of use, we kind of call things like they are, like ocean beach. It's the beach with the ocean on it. Desert planet. It's the planet with the desert. Um, in theory, OpenAI is going to announce something today, but I don't know exactly what's going on. We're going to try not to do more big V6 things, but we might do small V6 things. Like if we find that we can just easily collect data sets and update it, we might do that. But I think we want to try to avoid most of the big research on V6 and move more towards the V7. Unless like some of the things are helping us with V7 code later. Have I met Sam or Ilya? Yeah, I've known Sam for like 12 years. I knew Sam before OpenAI existed. Ilya? Yeah, I know Ilya from, I feel like I met Ilya right around the time OpenAI was forming. Um, yeah. So like all the head AI people know each other. Um, I think Ilya's doing his own company now, right? So we can't hire him. Yeah, I think sometimes sometimes people are like, I think sometimes people actually like don't want to join Midjourney because they're scared that like we already solved image like generation, and so there's nothing for them to do. But we really do have like a lot of big things. Like basically we want to do the real-time open world simulations, and that's a big project. But then there's a lot of crazy stuff we want to do past that that it's even bigger. So there's a lot of stuff to do still. And then even if we were just trying to make pictures look better, the pictures can look a lot better still. Um, like there are many generations of significantly improved image models. Um, it wouldn't be nice for me to, I don't really want to have like public opinions on like the drama of other companies. I think probably like the most controversial thing I'll say is that like sometimes I wish like sometimes the startups like probably sometimes some of these small startups just like shouldn't exist. It's probably like the most controversial thing I'll say. You know, and that sometimes like the open source is like a mixed bag, obviously. I think that's not controversial. Saying like the open source is a mixed, like I think everyone kind of agrees that like the AI open source can be a mixed bag sometimes. But whether it's in terms of like making it easier to make deepfake porn or making it easier to have like Russian botnets or being kind of like weird um like tactical ways of liquidating value across the tech ecosystem from big tech companies. But yeah, I mean I think we're in between a small startup and a big company. We are a small company. We have like less than 50 people. So like I think like it's kind of crazy like I want to say like like an example, like another random example, like a runway or something that might have like 120, 150. So even though we're kind of the leaders of the space, I think we're like 3 or 4 times smaller than most of the companies that are number 2 or number 3. So we're very small relative to like we pack a punch. Um, I think that's sometimes because like CEOs want to often like first time CEOs want to hire more people to feel important. But in I think an experienced CEO is more like interested in these sort of like the like how much value are we how much like good stuff in the world are we making per person, you know? Um, yeah. We're trying to be an independent research lab. We have, have no investors. We're just supported by the community. And we're going to try to expand the scope of that research more and more. And we'll be talking more and more about it. So I think it's going to be pretty great. I do agree that our UI and stuff is behind. I think the website is in some ways good and in some ways bad. I think in some ways the website is as good as you can make a UI for the current kind of like broken intermediate like stage of a product that we're at. Like it probably could have made it in some ways. I think the only way to make the website a lot better, I think, is if we just like kept it completely command line or something, which I kind of wish we had done. But the second you want to make a GUI, I think it was going to end up in this kind of like medium state that wasn't like totally ideal. But I do use the website over Discord, like myself for making images. I never use Discord for making images. I use it for describe sometimes, which I think bothered me a lot. So we're gonna try to have some better describe features on the website. And then, um, yeah, we'll definitely add more organization features at some point. Yeah, we're definitely going to showcase more projects. We are going to sync the prefer from the Discord to the website at some point, but I think we haven't quite figured out like what the long-term prefer stuff looks like. Um, I think in some ways we move fast with the web, and some ways we move slow. Like we move slower with the web than we do with Discord because Discord doesn't really have a UI. But yeah, it will be interesting to do more tagging. Yeah, I think the depth map stuff will be really interesting for interior design and architecture. Folders are kind of tags. We do want to improve the folder thing at some point, but I think the goal is to try to focus on like mobile and even like iPads before we start doing more folder stuff. And then we have like this new personalization and describe tool and explore thing. So I think there are like some seriously big functionality things we can do for everybody before we add more organization. So we'll try to do our best there. Um, yeah, tags are one of those weird things where like I like tags a lot, but for some reason, there's never been a product that uses tags that's been successful. It's like one of those mysteries of the ecosystem. Yeah, I mean, I do like tags better. Um, you think the 6.1 personal 6.2 6. Uh, yeah, I don't know why 6.1 personalization isn't compatible with 6.0, but it is. Sorry. Um, yeah, Midjourney is currently a remote team, but I think we do want to pull people more towards like main offices in like London and San Francisco and Tokyo. Um, I don't think we're gonna have like click to video game anytime soon. Um, yeah, so I think like the current personalization is not necessarily good if you're an art director, but it's good if you're like a regular person. I do think we're going to build a new personalization system in the next month that will be better for, having multiple profiles. So I think that's when things are going to get a lot easier for people. Twitter headquarters. I'm not going to take the Twitter building. I feel like we could take the Twitter building, but I am not a huge fan of the Twitter building. I think it was really nice before COVID, but that area of downtown has kind of become a shithole due to like weird San Francisco policies. So I wouldn't really want to have an office in that area. But hopefully the city will bring back the downtown area over the next few years. I mean, otherwise everything will go out of business down there. But I think, yeah, we will try to have a really nice office, very like inside in nature. Um, Midjourney office inside an abandoned cathedral. It'll be cool like that. I would like to get an abandoned cathedral. I've that they don't go on the market very often. The personalization will get a lot better. I don't think we're gonna design our building with Midjourney. We're just gonna have like really good architects and interior designers. I don't like to design things with Midjourney as a gimmick. I did make some mood boards though for some of our architecture stuff with Midjourney. Like, hey, like I think that's kind of where Midjourney shines right now, is being more of a mood board rather than trying to like exactly, do those things. But yeah, I mean, I really do think that like Midjourney as a mood board, Midjourney as a way to like make all the bad things before you make the good things, like figuring out what you want. Like, I feel like that's really the core of it. I don't always like it trying to use Midjourney as like a final image. But I do get it. Definitely are situations where I've seen people do that. What have I been prompting lately? It's a fun question. What have I been prompting lately? Um, Galactic Wizards. Celestial, like, looks like I did a lot of wizards. Yeah, been doing a lot of wizards lately. Some mystic sanctuaries, some dragons, some mystic gateways, pools of liquid. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I can like share some Midjourney pictures. It could be fun. Trying to find like one of my favorite ones. I was doing a lot of like wizards and portals. Yeah, so like, sure, we can share some Midjourney pictures. Um, where's some good pictures? Oh, Chippy Dolphin. And I was doing some really great spaceships. Yeah, some really cool spaceships. Oh, that's a great one. Yeah, there's some other ones here in a second. It gives people always wonder like what kind of Midjourney images David's making, so picking some good ones. Yeah, so I was doing a lot of spaceships that were inspired by animals. So like let's see right here. Here's like a whale spaceship and a fly spaceship, putting them in the VC text channel. And then doing some weird wizards. Like here's a big wizard. He's like above the clouds and he's kind of really stylish. I don't know why, I just kind of liked it. Stupid shit like that. Um, I was doing some angels lately too. Yeah, that was weird. I was doing these like it's kind of a weird theme. I was doing like some angels where their wings like match the color of their hair. I don't know why, but I've like never seen it before. Like usually when there's angels, like they have white wings and then like black hair. And I was like, what if they had like red hair and like red wings, you know? And so I was like kind of, I don't know if this is like the best one, but just an example, like, yeah, like you see it kind of has like this red, they have kind of like red hair and then kind of like red wings. I just hadn't seen that before. I was just kind of what, and I think I did a few versions like blue hair, blue wings. Like I was sort of like, what if you actually match the colors? And I just never seen that before. It's like seems kind of obvious from a design standpoint, but yeah, I've been doing some angels lately. I don't know why I've been like doing a bunch of angels. Um, yeah, so like angels, spaceships, wizards. Um, yeah, I think the angels are, I think spaceships and wizards are kind of like classics for David. I think like whale spaceships kind of new. But I think the angel one is like new for me. I don't know why. I kind of got interested in doing some angels. How many images have I generated? That's a funny question. At least on my main account, I have generated, it looks like 33,000, but I know I've done more on the other accounts. So on my official Midjourney account, only 33,000. But then like, I mean, there's other accounts where like I'll generally, like I can make 1,000 images at the same time. So if you count sort of if you count my other accounts, I'm sure like my debugging systems, it's way more. But yeah, I'm multi-accounting. No, I would actually prefer it only be one account, but I have to sometimes have a second account for the debug systems, like we run it on a different system. So it's a bit unfortunate. Like I had to log into 2 different accounts to find the angel pictures. Okay. I think I've ranted enough by myself, so we can let some people come up on voice for a bit. Gonna find more spaceships in the meantime.